And moreover, given the increasing diversity of America's populations, the dangers of sectarianism are greater than ever. Whatever we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation, at least not just. We are also a Jewish nation, a Muslim nation, and a Buddhist nation, and a Hindu nation, and a nation of non-believers. And even if we did have only Christians in our midst, if we expelled every non-Christian from the United States of America, whose Christianity would we teach in the schools? Would it be James Dobson's or Al Sharpton's? Which passages of Scripture should guide our public policy? Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay, and that eating shellfish is an abomination? Or we could go with Deuteronomy, which suggests stoning your child if he strays from the faith? Or should we just stick to the Sermon on the Mount, a passage that is so radical that it's doubtful that our own Defense Department would survive its application? So before we get carried away.
Good Sunday, good people. Hope everybody had a great week this past week, and that your yesterday was good, and that so far you're having a great Sunday. And I hope that next week is also extremely good for all of us as well. I want to come on here and talk a little bit about a couple of things, but the more importantly, well, I don't want to say more importantly, but the number one topic is the fact that Obama, as you've seen in the video, how he basically was denying the Bible, in which, if you believe in Jesus, not in the way that the what do they call it? The Jehovah Witnesses may believe in him, or the way that Muslims believe in him, but the way that the Bible says that we should believe in Jesus, then you know that the things that Obama said were pretty much blasphemous. And just looking at him, the image of him, you could see, or at least I could see, that spirit of the Antichrist all over him, in which the society, and not just society, but churches as well, are becoming more and more liberal, to the point where just about anything and everything is being accepted in society. You know, for one, abortion. Abortion is 99.9% wrong. I hear all of these Democrats and whatever else types of people are saying, well, it's the woman's body and the woman should be able to make whatever decision she would like to make. In which, once again, that's the problem, that more and more people are leaning towards the world in their own understanding of how things should be done. But morally, we know, or should know, that abortion is wrong. Now, I say 99.9% of the time, because most abortions are done because it's an unexpected pregnancy, and we have two people agreeing to commit the act that produces children. But you do have certain situations where women are raped and they may become pregnant, and or it's one of those scenarios to where it's extremely risky for the mother and for the child. And so I say that because if a woman is raped, if I just morally thinking that this woman walking down the street, some guy jumps out and takes what he wants from her and she becomes pregnant, I don't think personally that she should carry that child. I'm sorry, but I just don't think that that's right. But if you are a prostitute and you're having sex with multiple men and you just happen to become pregnant, and or you're just promiscuous and you're sleeping around, or you're sleeping with your boyfriend or even your husband, if you become pregnant, you are responsible for having that child. So that's why I say abortion is 99.9% wrong. But once again, you had the Democrats ready to pull their own hair out over these abortion laws, in which that shouldn't be their main focus. Their focus should be more so on the way that this country, the direction that this country is headed in which you do have others that are focusing on the fact that the economy is becoming worse, and certain things that this current president agrees to aren't morally correct. And we know as well as this guy has a past, but we just don't know how deep in the hole his past goes, if you see what I'm saying. But I really want to say that a little bit. But once again, it's not about what party you are a part of, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican or independent. That's nonsense. And the governing powers or whomever came up with these different factions of the government, they did that purposely in order to keep confusion, and also to keep us separated, because they know that if people were to come together as far as the citizens, we would have way more power than what any government could have. And when I say us, I'm not just saying regular citizens. I mean the policing and military. I mean all these people, because they're being used as pawns just as much as we are being used as pawns. Because, they signed up for a job and they're doing their job, even though certain things that they're being told to do, they know are morally incorrect and that they are wrong. And you do have some people that may be military or police and things like that, and were told to do something that was wrong, and they completely quit because they had morals, because they had ethics. And when you get sign up for these types of jobs, you should be signing up to serve and protect the people as well as this country, and not do it in order to gain power, because you have some people that do it because they know that now they're in a position of power and they can almost do what they want to, and for the most part possibly get away with doing it when it's wrong. And they're wrong. You see what I'm saying? But once again, they created these different parties in order to keep us separated and to keep us from coming together. Because I've always said it, I don't trust any politician, because all of them have agendas and they are being put into the presidency, for example, to fulfill whatever agenda what people want to call elites want to have fulfilled. I said, in which I have no major proof, because back in 2000 we didn't have these cell phones, and I couldn't record myself and turn around and post it by using my phone, because if I could, you guys would be I don't want to say amazed, but y'all would really be intrigued on the things that were said by me and a good friend of mine and how they came to be. Literally, we were making songs about black presidents, talking about how Trump was going to become president. And this was back in 2000. And yeah, people gonna say, oh, you trying to take others people's credit. No, we truly did do these things. But once again, I don't have any proof other than my word. But literally, we said we were going to have a black president, and it came to happen. We said that Trump would become president, and it down the line came to happen. And so I say that because it's designed, y'all. It's designed. No matter how many people go out and vote, no matter how much this character that's in the White House sit here and say that the election was stolen from him in 2020, it's all designed for these people to be in positions of power at that particular time that they're in power. We really, as voters, we really don't have any power and any control on who actually is going to be elected, y'all. They give us the false feelings on and false information that our vote counts and our vote matters. We need to get out and vote. We need to do this. We need to do that. And I know that people are going to continue to vote no matter what I say. But once again, in the long run, whoever is meant to be in that position is going to be in that position no matter what. And I say that we need to start looking at the person. We should not be judging who should be running a state or running a country based off of what color suit or what color outfit they wear. Because literally we have Bloods and Crips running this country because it's a red and a blue thing, y'all. And we know for a fact that the Bloods and Crips are the two largest gangs, or at least at one point in time, were the two largest gangs in this country. And more than likely, they still are. But they're not going to tell us this. They're not going to let you know that that side of society and their side of society are actually related in some way or another, y'all. They sit here and they fight one another with their words. But then the gangs, they fight and kill each other by actions. And that's the difference. But it's still, they're still gangs. Because they literally sit there and they talk negatively about one another. In opposed to saying, I could care less whether you're Republican, I could care less whether you're a Democrat. Let's get this country in order, and let's make sure that the people of this country are able to survive and continue to live normal lives without having to worry about how they're going to feed their children or how they're going to pay their rent or their car note or whatever types of bills that they have, y'all. But we're being forced into the corner. And once again, this current president sits here and lies. And yeah, he was against abortion. Kudos. But we all know that the devil will mix lies and truth together in order to manipulate people. And he is one of, if not the biggest, con man in this entire country at this point in time and in his lifetime. But because he knew different avenues on how to do things that just barely made them legal. Barely made it legal. I mean, he's truly, all of his life has been treading a thin line. He's been known to make schools and all these different things and literally taking money from people and not ever giving that money back. None of them got their degrees, or many of them didn't get whatever they were going to his school for. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, legally, beauty pageants and all this other stuff. It's legal. But let's think about it, y'all. He is berating women around, and they're walking around in these skimpy outfits, or they put on these other little outfits and get all jazzed up and all this stuff, and people are actually voting on who's the prettiest woman. So yeah, as far as we know, because at some point in time, if you're attending these pageants, you just can't go into a beauty pageant for free. 9 times out of 10, you have to pay for those tickets in order to go into the beauty pageant. So what I'm saying is that he found a legal way in order to make women into basically just objects, so that he could benefit from it, so that he could become more wealthier from it. But prior to that, and even who knows, during that time, there was some other things on the flip side of the coin that this guy was doing. Because it hasn't come up recently or in a long time, but his best friend, when he was alive, was the owner of Playboy, the nudie magazine. And we all, if you were alive or growing up during that time, you know that the Playboy Mansion was known for throwing the types of parties that rap guy from New York is still sitting in jail for, in a sense, even though they acquitted him of, or found him not guilty, I should say, of a lot of charges that really would have landed him in prison for life, and which I still think he's guilty of those things. But because he is an informant, he was able to get off. Even though this is not about him, but because I brought him up, because we know that the rate of people being prosecuted and found guilty when brought up on federal charges, for you to be able to get away from the feds is almost slim to none chance. And this guy actually beat the Fed charges. Think about it. But anyways, Trump's best friend, the owner of Playboy magazine at the time, he was known for these types of things. Look at Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, he literally had his own room in the Playboy Mansion. And so when he, after 25 years, which is crazy to me, but my point is that when they finally started trying to come after him, almost all of the women were Playboy bunnies. Let's think about this, y'all. Let's put some of this together, and let's try and make some sense out of these situations that have come about. And why, after 25 years, would these women finally want to come out and try and bring Bill Cosby down, even if he is guilty of those things? Because we know, even though I've not ever been there, it's obvious. If you were in the Playboy Mansion, you were involved in all types of drugs, all types of sexual activity, because back then that you would see sometimes they would show images or have specials about the Playboy Mansion, and you literally got men and women walking around basically nude. I mean, literally with no clothes on. Women walking around topless, men walking around with no underwear on. You hear what I'm saying? Naked, walking around in a mansion. And you telling me that that's normal? Or that's okay? That normal things are going on in a mansion filled with people that are walking around naked. So you know that every single hour of the day, somebody somewhere is having sex. They're not married. They're not in a real relationship. They are just having sex with one another. Doing drugs. We know that you have to be on something in order to be walking around naked. Most sober-minded people aren't going to do anything like that, y'all. But my point being is when Bill Cosby got taken down, Bill Cosby was literally in the height of his career. I get he did the Cosby Show and all that, but when I say he was in the height of his career, not as an actor, not as a comedian, but as a public figure. He literally was almost the face of Spelman College here in Atlanta. He was donating millions of dollars, all these other things he was doing for the community, whether he was doing it because now all of a sudden he felt bad because Spelman is an all-girls college here in Atlanta. So maybe after all those years, he might have felt bad for the way that he took advantage of women or the things that he did, and that was the reason why he was giving back. But at the same time, Bill Cosby was in his mind. And even though it never came out, nothing was ever said about this, but literally he was planning to run more than likely for the presidency, y'all. And because Bill Cosby had a room in the Playboy Mansion, Donald Trump was best friends with the owner of Playboy. The owner of Playboy died, and Trump knew what was being planned by Bill Cosby, and he said, no way, this is not going to happen. So they figured out and got enough of these women to come out and bring Bill Cosby basically to his knees, y'all. The lowest this guy has ever been and more likely will ever be. He was brought down. And now and then, so many years later, what have you, Trump becomes president for the first time. Let's think about this, y'all. It all has something to do with one another, whether we want to believe it or not. It truly does. And because Bill Cosby, he's weak and feeble. He's not going to come out and speak against Donald Trump. He's not going to do it because he knows the type of dirt that they have on him, even though he has now been released from prison. He knows that if he says something, that there's a possibility he may end up getting knocked off for speaking out. So he's keeping his mouth closed. Who knows, on his deathbed, maybe something will come out because he died at that point and he has nothing to fear, so to speak. Maybe something will come out then, y'all. But there's a lot of people that has dirt on this president, but they're afraid to say anything because they know that this guy knows a lot of people. And they know that behind all of the lies that he tells us and the fake smile he puts on, that there's a demon inside of this guy. And so I said about his pageant, how he went legal with it, even though the Playboy Mansion was legal as well. In which I don't see how on God's green earth something like that was allowed to be considered a business in an establishment, but it was. And so when you put all of that together, you bring Epstein into the picture, knowing what he was doing. At least these three guys, I should say, were all involved in sex trafficking, even though the Playboy guy, he died. He's long gone, so you can't do nothing to him. Epstein is also dead. But all of them were involved in trafficking these women, y'all, because they parading these women around, once again, as if they're objects, as if they're not people. And they were using them to fill their pockets and as well to fulfill their sexual fantasies, y'all. It's time for people to wake up and look at everything and stop walking around here blinded for whatever reason by this nonsense that this guy keeps putting out. And it's like I said, it ain't just about him, it's about politicians as a whole, that we cannot truly trust any of them. You got an antichrist in Obama, and the way that they used him was to mislead the black community. We finally got a black president, in which I'm not prejudiced whatsoever, but he ain't fully black. If you go and look at my family, my daddy is a black man, my mama is a black woman. Not saying that I might not have somebody white down the line in my, you get what I'm saying? So, but I'm not prejudiced, but Obama literally had a black mama, a black daddy, and a white mama. So, for one, you're not even fully black, even though they want to say if you mix, you black. I don't agree with that. You're black and white is what you are. To be honest, you're black and white. It should be something when you're filling out an application, what race you are, mixed black and white, if you ask me. But anyway, so that's one lie. And the other lies that they used, well, they used him, I should say, which he's the biggest lie, but they used him to fool the black community, to fool the white people that also support the black community. They were all fooled by this guy. And then they run around here hollering about he's Christian and he's this. For one, that's another problem with the way that religion has gone. You got a Seventh-day Adventist, you got a Baptist, you got a Christian, you got a Mormon, you got a Pentecostal, whatever you call them, a Catholic. It's way too many religions. But this is what we have come to, y'all. We are separated when it comes to politics. We are separated when it comes to religion. So why on earth do we not realize that these being the two biggest topics I feel in all of the world, because you got people that are literally getting their heads chopped off over religion. You got people that are being with their heads chopped off based off of political reasons. These are the two biggest issues, y'all. And we are so blind that we cannot see that it should be about people, that we're going to remain separated, whether it's in politics or whether it's in religion. Because truly there's only one religion. And that one religion, the one true religion, is the belief in Jesus Christ, that he was birthed to a virgin, that he suffered, that he was crucified, that he was raised on the third day, that he ascended into heaven, that he's going to once again come back someday, and he's the only way to get into heaven. And that's the only true religion. Because my thing is that if Jesus wasn't truly the way to God, then why on earth does all other religions have Jesus' name mentioned in their so-called holy text? If Jesus wasn't a super important man, he would not be mentioned in every religious text, y'all. But once again, we are so much at a loss for common sense that we sit here and we're going to figure out a way to deny the truth. Y'all, this is a lost society. And in all honesty, the Bible said that it was going to be this way, and it's going to be that way until the end actually comes, until the son of perdition is finally revealed to all of the world. Only then will we know that Jesus is truly going to be coming back sooner than later. Because I said it before, every day that passed, every hour that passed, the day of Jesus coming back is closer. But once the son of perdition is revealed, and who knows, he may be already in the cameras and on the television and stuff like that, but he hasn't truly revealed himself to the entire world. But once that happens, then we are supposed to be looking to the east, waiting for Jesus to come back and take the church back to heaven with him. But I just say all that, y'all, because we got to get over all of these, I should say, differences that have been placed before us. Because in most cases, it's not us that's creating these differences. It's the mainstream. It's the people with all of the money. It's the people with all of the pull in society that wants to keep us separated. You know, I told this story to where my school years, I grew up in the urban areas. I grew up in a city. Well, I don't want to say in a city. I was on the outside. Literally on the outskirts of downtown Decatur. Was about maybe 10 minutes from us. Downtown Atlanta, depending on where we were staying at the time, but for the most part was no more than maybe 10 or 15 minutes from where I grew up at. So we were inner city kids in a sense. But anyways, there was a program that I don't know exactly when it came out, but I was a part of it. It was called Minority to Majority here in Atlanta. And so they would take kids from all around the metro area. We had kids that were from Toby Grant, which was Scottsdale, the projects. We had people from Thomasville Heights, and anybody that knows my family knows my family. We all came up in the projects, Thomasville Heights projects. But I grew up in Belvedere Park, which was literally 5 minutes from East Atlanta. And anybody know East Lake Meadows, Little Vietnam, it was a war zone. But we had people from Boulder Crest, Gresham Road. We even had people that lived out in Lithonia, but just everywhere. But they were brought to schools like Druid Hills. I went to Fernbank Elementary in Druid Hills, but Lakeside High School and several other schools. And so I say all that because for the first time, I was around white children because I didn't go to school. I didn't go to the nursery with white children. I didn't have any white children in my neighborhoods that I lived in. So, so for the first time in kindergarten, I'm being introduced to somebody that looks different than me. And I'm getting to see these people in person, not on television. And so I was curious, I'm touching the hair because it don't look like mine. I might even sniff them, like, you don't even smell like me. You get what I'm saying? But after all that being said, we built friendships, y'all. We didn't look at one another, even though you look different, and we realized that, but we were still friends. We played together on the playground. We even went to each other's, well, they didn't come to my neighborhood because it was rough, but I even was invited to birthday parties and went to their houses and stayed over to their house and spent the night at even some of them houses. And these are white children, y'all. But after so long, we were introduced to history. Because kindergarten, we don't know anything about history. First grade, second grade, third grade, they're not teaching us about history. And then after so many years, they come and tell us about how the black people were the slaves and the white people were the slave owners, and the black people were considered to be 1/3 of a human, and we weren't even really people. You get what I'm saying? So it actually created a rift between me and the white children, even though I continued to have friendships with them, but my friendship wasn't the same anymore because now I'm looking at them differently. I even went through high school. We played baseball. I even played on the same team with them, traveled with them. But I still looked at them differently, y'all. And it's sad because if I would have not ever known about this slave nonsense, I more than likely would have had an even closer relationship with my white teammates and my white friends, if you see what I'm saying. But I say that whole story because all of this stuff is truly designed to keep a rift between different races, different cultures, and different religions, y'all. It is. And no matter where you go or what country you go to, it's always the black people were their slaves. The black people were slaves in Mexico. The black people were slaves over in this place and that place. You see what I'm saying? But besides all of that, you know, now the Hispanics are starting to feel how it felt for the black people to be picked out, to be mistreated, to be thrown into jail. They're feeling how the black community had to feel back in the 40s or the 50s or whenever this stuff was going on for the black community, y'all. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but at the same time, if we went to Mexico, the Mexicans, they're going to look at certain black people in certain parts of Mexico, I should say, they're going to look at black people as if we're beneath them, because they've been taught that the black people were slaves to the Mexicans. But now they're feeling it. And there's been certain white communities that have felt it. White women, the people that they call trailer park trash, they are treated differently by their own kind because they live in trailer parks. But then at the same time, you have a lot of people that live in these trailer parks that take up the white supremacist mentality and not realize that the black people, a lot of black people, I should say, would be more understanding to their situation and the things that they're going through, because a lot of times in the trailer parks, the crime rate is a little higher. The use of drugs is a lot higher. They don't have a lot of things. And that's what a lot of us as in the black community had to go through. Because when we were in the projects, it wasn't any white families in our projects, even though you did have white people in certain projects, but it was only a handful. But it wasn't none in Thomasville that I knew of. There wasn't none in Shoals Creek that was literally across the street from where I grew up at. We didn't, so it wasn't many white children for us to be around, but we would have understood the struggles of what they call the trailer park trash. Because you had a lot of us, we had to run around with the holes in our pants. We didn't get new clothes for the summer. We had to wait until school started back up. And some of us didn't get that. I was lucky that my mama worked hard in order to buy me school clothes every year. So I had 5 pairs of clothes to wear for each day of the week. Then we had to wash them, and I wore them again the next week. You had some people that had 10 pairs. But my whole point is that we would have understood. But yet, because of society, the same people that would have understood one another were pitted against each other. And that white supremacy nonsense coming out of the trailer parks, a lot of them missed out on friendships that could have made them stronger, that could have possibly gave them ideas and helped them believe more in themselves so that they can get themselves out of those situations. But y'all, society it's something else. But once again, I'm going to speak on it, even though I know that I can only reach so many people and that it's only going to change so many people's minds, because in reality, it's supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be separated like this. But y'all stay strong out there, and I just want to speak my mind, y'all, because it ain't about Trump, it ain't about Obama, it ain't about Kamala, it ain't about the Clintons, because they all are evil, y'all. All of them are evil. Ain't none of them right. But y'all take it easy out there, and I'll talk to you later.